Okay. Well, Unit 1 is the first unit in the program, and it really is an overview of pumping equipment. What we mean by pumping, how the hydraulic end is designed, how the mechanical end is designed, and a little bit of information about bearings and seals. So it's a very practical approach to the pump as a piece of machinery. We're not talking about performance in this section. We're talking about design features between the difference between volutes and diffusers and things like that. But generally speaking, it's a very basic understanding of what a pump is as a machine. We then go a bit more into products, and the lesson 2 talks about pump types and pump standards. And we look at mass-produced motor pumps, pumps covered by EU regulations, and talk a little bit about potential regulation in Australia. So this looks at the sort of pump that you can buy from a pump dealer or from a pump supplier who is taking a product out of stock and supplying it to you for installation in your system. It doesn't cover what I call engineered pumps or special pumps, because those are not going to be covered by any legislation. So I've tried to put these products together so that the sort of thing that you would buy from a pump dealer is explained to you, at least in terms of the sort of coverage that you can expect from that sector of the market. Then I talk about special pumps and engineered pumps. The special pumps are still mass-produced pumps, but have got particular features about them. So we're going to look at self-priming pumps, solids handling pumps, and peripheral types of pumps. And then we go on to customized and engineered pumps and talk about the various configurations of pumps that are, again, available in the market, but most of these are built to clients' requirements. So they're not taking a stock pump and converting it, they're actually building the pump to suit the customer's specific application requirements. And then we're going to look at the older style irrigation pumps, multi-stage pumps, actually split-phase pumps, vertical turbine pumps, tubular casing pumps, submersible sewage pumps, and slurry pumps. All of these are generally classified as engineered pumps and are designed to meet a particular customer application. Then we look at positive displacement pumps, and we're going to look at the reciprocating and rotary categories. Then we're going to talk a little bit about the applications and typical positive displacement pump curves, because they are often significantly different from the curves that you'd be familiar with for centrifugal pumps. Lesson 3, we're going to talk about pump curves, pump terms, and pump selection. And we're going to study what information is provided on a pump performance curve. Most of it will be about centrifugal pumps, and we'll be looking at the relationship between flow, head, power absorbed efficiency, and NPSHR. And then we're going to discuss a little bit about how accurate that information is, because the information is subject to tolerances, which a lot of people don't understand very clearly. Lesson 4, we're going to look at system curves. This is the customer's side of the equation, and we're going to try and model the system losses by calculating friction losses in pipework, valves, pieces of equipment like the heat exchangers, chillers, and things like that. And then go through some typical static head calculations and pipe frictions calculations using friction tables that we can get from various handbooks and so on. Lesson 5 is pump selection itself. how do we select a pump if we are given a duty? So it's important that we gather as much information about the operation as possible. We need to look at the pump being a suitable match for the system and discussing preferred operating zones. Because when you work away from best efficiency on pumps, you'll find that it has some impact on the operational reliability of the pump if it's operating at a prolonged period outside the preferred zone. Lesson 6 is variations in operating conditions. We're talking about what the impact of speed is on pump performance, what the impact is on impeller diameter reductions on performance, and the impact of series and parallel operation of pumps. So that's the final one, looks at more than one pump operating in the system. Then we talk about NPSH and cavitation, which is a bit of a mystery to many people. And we look at NPSH-A, which is a function of the system, NPSH-R, which is a function of the pump, and talk about the impact of cavitation. Lesson 8 is variations in fluids. So we're looking at specific gravity, pH, and viscosity, and the impact that has on pump performance. Then we're going to look at pump performance testing. In Australia, we work to an Australian standard, which is also an ISO, in other words, international standard for performance testing of centrifugal pumps. We'll also have a quick look at what standards exist for testing positive displacement pumps. So I've given you the test codes on this slide for the old system that was used in Australia, the new system that is now used in Australia, and what we mean by acceptance criteria, whether the pump passes the test or not. And then we look at pump testing for both reciprocating and rotary types. 10.1, we're going to look at pump installation and alignment. So the aspects of good installation and typical alignment techniques. Now, all these are coming from a fairly practical standpoint because over the years of my experience, most of the problems that we experience with pumps are to do with poor installation. In other words, the pump hasn't been installed properly and hasn't been matched properly to the client's system requirements. And then finally, we're going to look at troubleshooting, typical common faults when the pump's not delivering the quantity that people are expecting, it's not delivering the pressure that people are expecting, it's consuming excessive power, and it's making excessive noise. All of these things are quite common complaints from the user, and they always blame the pump. So we have to look at that from a more objective viewpoint, and that means collecting data to analyze what are the factors that are causing the troubles that the client is complaining of. So those are the sessions. Just for information, I see as the sort of program designer that sessions 1, 2, 3, and 4 fit into a bundle which are all about product. So this is very product specific in bundle 1. Sorry, I've got jumped. But bundle 2 is all about pump and system matching and the basics of good pump selection. Bundle 3 is about variations in operating conditions and variations in fluid characteristics. So dealing with variation. And then finally, we've got site-related issues that are pump testing, pump installation, pump troubleshooting. So those bundles can be mixed and matched by a particular user depending on where he sits in the supply chain. Not everybody needs to know about all of those particular bundles, but they might want to choose 2 or 3 just to give their own staff a better idea of how pumps fit together. It's also possible to access the complete program. There's a special price for this level of commitment, and it's also possible that we can design programs for companies if they want to show their own staff a particular number of units that are relevant to their needs. Obviously, we need to involve ourselves in discussions with the client for that sort of thing, but we're keen to design programs that fit the purpose. And obviously, we'd encourage people to get in touch with us to see if we can help them with their needs. So, a few frequently asked questions that I've had from people that I've been in conversation with. What happens if I miss a session? Well, we will run make-up sessions and let people know who missed them when they can access that. And it's also possible that they can access a recorded session that they can use in a catch-up mode. Is it possible to have private delivery to my staff? Yes, it is, but that will be outside the normal published program. Are course notes available? Yes, we will provide for each session a printed or a PDF version of the course notes, and we would be asking people to print those off so that they can have them as we work through the program. There will also be other information available for each session because each of the sessions may well have a Q&A program or work example content, and it will be necessary to download and print off the material that's required for those sessions.